Am I the jerk for snitching on my stepsister? So I, a 19-year-old female, live with my stepfather, my mother, my two 20-year-old female twin stepsisters, and my 11-year-old male stepbrother. They used to live with their grandmother and only moved in with us 3 years ago after their pregnancies. They both got pregnant at the same time. At first, they were really nice to me and my mother, but things have recently changed. I will use code names so things do not get confusing. I got along with Sally, one of the sisters, more than I got along with Sophia, the other sister. Sally and I would trust each other with our personal life details, and we even smoked grass together occasionally. I regret this. Being naive, I assumed this would stay between us and all of our other conversations. The other day, my stepbrother was in my room, and I was on the phone with my boyfriend. My boyfriend and I got into an argument on the phone, and unfortunately, this led to me raising my voice and some cussing. My stepbrother and I have always been close, and we grew up together, so I have always trusted him. He left my room after seeing I was upset. Clearly, I should not have raised my voice in front of him, and I apologized to him afterward. Since Sally's room is next to mine, she overheard and assumed I was yelling at my stepbrother. She told my stepfather, and my stepfather confronted me. I explained everything, and even my little brother explained it too. My mother did not know of this, and she found messages on my stepfather's phone between him and Sally explaining the situation. My mother asked me, and I explained, and she was also upset. She confronted Sophia, and Sally got mad and turned my stepbrother against me. He will not talk to me, and he will not hang out with me anymore, which honestly hurts me deeply. As for Sally, she has begun a hate campaign against me. She told her father about the grass. She also said I brought my boyfriend over, which I never have. She has been telling my aunts and uncles that I am mentally unstable and use drugs and alcohol. This is a complete lie. I used to smoke grass occasionally, but I have quit completely since January. I also do not drink, and I am completely sober from any substance, which she also knows. I find this to be a betrayal because I have helped her out so much. I let her drive my car without paying gas money or even putting gas in it. I also have helped her with so many things, and I considered her trustworthy. Yesterday, in the car, my mother asked me about all of this. She said that I am a different person behind her back and that Sally was telling the truth. I was so angry that in this moment, I told her about the time that Sally snuck in her ex more than once and how I did not say anything. I was not planning on snitching on her back because I am not like that, but I am mad. I have done nothing to her. Am I the asshole? You have done nothing wrong. Sally decided to spread lies about you to the family, and all you did was show your mother that Sally isn't as innocent as she seems. If they're this vindictive over something trivial, they will eventually turn on your mom too. Sally was just asking for trouble, and she got what she deserved. Am I the jerk for not leaving my parking spot until the person waiting gave me space to do so safely? My car was parallel parked on the right side of a busy two-way street, single lane in each direction, in a major US city. All street parking spots nearby were taken. I was sandwiched between the cars parked behind and in front of mine. Upon entering my car to leave, another driver stopped their car in the actual lane of the street to my left, such that their car was parallel with the car parked in front of me. This driver's rear bumper was approximately lined up with the handle of the driver door of the car parked in front of me. If I had pulled out at this moment, I would be stuck behind the person trying to take my spot. The only option I had would be to drive all the way into the lane of oncoming traffic, and then drive on the wrong side of the road to get around the car waiting for my spot. It was a busy time of day, and my visibility wasn't great due to my car being small. The car parked directly in front of me was a huge SUV. The car waiting for my spot was also blocking a lot of visibility of the oncoming cars. I waited for the car to move, but traffic started to back up since there was only one lane. Some of the backed up traffic eventually cut into the oncoming lane to get around the blockage if there was an opening. After a minute or two, the blocking driver got out of their car and yelled at me to ask if I was leaving the parking spot. I told them I couldn't get out safely with their car blocking the way. They rolled their eyes at me and got back into their car but didn't move. After another minute or two, they got out again, started yelling and gave me the finger. I didn't roll down my window this time, so I'm not sure what they said exactly. Finally, they got back into the car and drove away, with their middle fingers still held up and back towards me as they drove off with one hand on the steering wheel. Am I crazy, or is a driver waiting for a spot like mine supposed to wait behind the parallel parked car so that the parked car can actually safely exit the parking spot into the correct lane of traffic? If I am at fault, what should I have done differently here? You are not to blame. It's not acceptable to yell and flip people off over disagreements about parking etiquette. It's wild how some people react when they don't get their way. Safety comes first, and it sounds like that driver was in the wrong. Am I the jerk for not bringing my cousins drinks when they never asked? I, a 17-year-old female, have had something bothering me for years. My parents divorced when I was around 8 years old, and I have preferred my father's place over my mother's place for as long as I can remember. I refuse to live with my mother despite her having full custody over me because taking me away from my childhood home seemed extremely unfair to me. When I was 10 years old, I attended an annual New Year's party on my mother's side of the family. Near the start of the party, I decided I really wanted a soda since I do not get them often at home, and here I was not that supervised. Most people seem to forget I am pre-diabetic. Once I got back from the cooler with the drinks, I sat down in my chair, trying my best not to lose my composure because the place was practically covered in mosquitoes, and I despise mosquitoes to an extreme level. My mother asked me, "Did you get any for our chili today?" I said no, because they had not asked, and they were on the other side of the tent in their own little world. My mother asked, "Why?" And I replied, "Because they did not ask." As this was 7 years ago, the memory is hazy, and I cannot remember everything. I know my great aunt jumped in and started yelling at me, and I was just standing there confused. The most vivid part of this memory was when my great aunt and mother decided to say to my face, "You're just like your father," and proceeded to call me selfish. My 10-year-old self hid in my mother's car for the rest of the gathering, waiting for my father to come for me, but he was in a whole other city visiting my grandmother. I stayed in that car with my phone, sobbing for hours. 7 years later, my relationship with my mother is strained. I dislike my mother's side of the family and refuse to go to the New Year's gatherings now. I have come to terms with the fact that I am, in fact, selfish, and I am fine with that. So, am I the asshole? You acted correctly. You were only 10 years old, and it's not fair to expect you to consider getting drinks for others, especially since they didn't ask. The adults at the party overreacted and should have handled the situation much more calmly. It's understandable that you don't feel comfortable going back there after being treated so unfairly. Aita for not giving my stepsister part of my dad's inheritance? Throw away for privacy. My father passed away recently, and my family is expecting me to share my inheritance with my stepsister. My mother and father divorced when I was 12 years old. He discovered my mother cheating on him with my stepfather. My mother and stepfather got married, and he brought my stepsister Stella, who is 17 years old, into the marriage. We do not have a good relationship. I have always viewed them both as the homewreckers that ruined my family and upheaved my life. My father made good money and put a lot away for me since I do not have any siblings. He was diagnosed with cancer 5 years ago and started putting money away into specific accounts for major events in my life, such as college, wedding, and first home. When he passed, everything went to me, every single thing he owned. When the dust finally settled with his funeral arrangements, I was left with his house, vehicles, and some stocks and bonds, along with the money from his 401k, Roth IRA, life insurance policy, and his savings accounts, and his cat. About a week ago, my stepsister Stella approached me asking if I would use some of the money I inherited to pay for her college. Because our parents fall under the make too much money for financial aid according to the government, but not enough to actually pay for her college umbrella, she will have to take out loans. I told her no, and when she argued, I told her that when her father died, she could do whatever she wanted with the money she got from him, but until then, she would have to find her own way to pay for college. Our parents approached me later asking me to reconsider because I did not need all this money and that my father would want me to be generous with it. I told them to leave me alone. He would not want his ex-wife's affair partner's child to benefit from his death. If he wanted me to do anything specific with it, he had 5 years to either tell me or write it down somewhere. They said that if I was not going to be a good sister, I could go live somewhere else, so I did just that. I loaded the stuff that I had been keeping at my mother's house and took everything back to my father's house. I have received texts from all 3 of them as well as my mother's relatives and some people in my stepfather's family saying that I am selfish and inconsiderate and that I should just do one kind thing for my stepsister. Am I the asshole? I think you are not in the wrong here. You're not your stepsister's dad. Her own father should be paying for her college. It's ridiculous for your mom to suggest that your dad would want his money to go to the daughter of the man she was sleeping with. Keep all the money and use it responsibly to start your life on solid financial footing. If your mom keeps pushing, it might be best to go LCNC with her until she drops it. Am I the jerk for backing out of doing my siblings' hair the day before I was supposed to? My sister and I have always had issues. She wants me to braid her hair for her tomorrow. She asked me about a week or 2 ago to do her hair, and we have had many arguments between then and now. Today was my final straw, and I am thinking about telling her no altogether. Please let me know if I'm overreacting. One of the main issues I have with her is her household contributions. We live with our mother, meaning we have shared spaces. She never cleans our shared spaces. Tasks like taking the trash out, mopping the floors, and cleaning the bathroom are tasks strictly done by me or my mother. Another main issue is the car situation. When I was 16, I worked 2 jobs to be able to get my own car by 17. Over a year ago, my sister got into a wreck with my mother's car, making my car the family car. This new arrangement was, and still is, hell for me since my mother's work schedule is insane. She has to go to work at 5 a.m. 3 to 4 times a week, meaning either my sister or I have to wake up that early to drop her off. She gets picked up at 9:30 p.m., which ruins a lot of my nightly plans. Then, she has a part-time job 2 to 3 times a week, where she has to go midday for a couple of hours. I take my mother to her part-time job since my sister works during the day. Since it is my car and my work schedule is flexible, I've assumed tons of driving duties. I also have to take my sister to work and pick her up too. This is difficult for me because I constantly have to keep waking up and going back to sleep, and it takes forever for me to fall back asleep. With all this in mind, I recently told my sister, if I have to take you to work, you have to take our mother to work. I'm not getting up twice in the morning to drive you guys around. I feel like this is reasonable because she is the one who totaled my mom's car. She doesn't pick my mom up after work or take her to her other job ever. She constantly uses my car even though she didn't put a single penny towards it. She does nothing around the house. Despite me telling my sister this, she tells my mom that she's not taking her to work when she doesn't feel like it. So I have to get up twice to give them rides in the morning and evening. This happens often, but I feel like it was dumb of her to do this the day before she wants me to do her hair. Now, knotless braids take a long time. Professionals normally take 8 to 12 hours to do the style, so imagine how long it takes me. I enjoy braiding, but I don't want to reward my sister for her lack of contribution. I feel like I could be the asshole for canceling the day before. Considering how long it takes, she cleared all her plans for tomorrow. The braids average $350, but I charge her $50, $100. I doubt she can get an appointment for tomorrow, and she most likely can't afford it on such short notice. Please give me some advice here. Should I just do it? Your sister is definitely old enough to figure out her own transportation needs, so stop driving her around. Plus, she should be helping with getting your mom to and from jobs. It's really too much for you to handle alone, and creating a chore chart might help get her on board with household duties. Lastly, don't agree to do something if you don't want to. No is a complete sentence and needs no explanation. Am I the jerk for not telling my ex-wife that I broke up with my girlfriend? I, a 45-year-old man, got a call from my ex-wife, a 40-year-old woman, saying she wanted to talk. This is very unusual for us considering we don't communicate unless it has to do with our children. We have 3 children in their early teens. I reluctantly agreed and was then bombarded with questions. She wanted to know why I didn't tell her I broke up with my ex-girlfriend, a 43-year-old woman. She asked how come everyone else was informed when it happened, and she was just finding out months after the fact. She questioned why I had been letting my ex-girlfriend and her children live with me and our children if we weren't together anymore. She also asked if this meant she and her husband are allowed to come over and see the children now. By now, she was emotional and crying. She told me I was an asshole for not telling her it happened, as that means this opened up the door for her to be closer to our children. I sighed and told her that this didn't change anything and my dating life is none of her business. I didn't tell her the first time my girlfriend and I got together either. The only reason I had told her about my girlfriend and her 3 children was because they were moving in. I explained to her I was going to tell her about my breakup when my ex-girlfriend and her children had moved out. She didn't like my girlfriend anyway, so I also didn't want to tell her because I didn't want to hear the "I told you so's." This didn't change anything having to do with our children, so it is none of her business. She then freaked out and called me an asshole. She said she doesn't care about me and my dating life. She said my girlfriend was the main reason we had so much turmoil in co-parenting. She said my ex-girlfriend was the reason she wasn't allowed at the house. She said my ex-girlfriend was the reason my family had to have 2 of each holiday, as she refused to be in the same room as my ex-wife. My ex-wife then told me if she would have known we broke up when it happened, then she could have been spending quality time with our children in their home. I told her she knows now so we can move forward in co-parenting our children, and then hung up. A little context: I have full custody of our children. My ex-wife had a mental breakdown and was deemed unfit. She still sees them every other weekend. She and her boyfriend, now husband, used to come over for the whole day to see the children. When my girlfriend moved in, she said she didn't feel comfortable with my ex-wife coming over, so we started having shorter outside visits. After that conversation, I went to my parents' house and asked them who told my ex-wife. Unsurprisingly, my mother said she had let it slip, but she also had no idea my ex-wife didn't know, as it's been 4 months since the breakup. Both of my parents think I'm an asshole for not telling my ex-wife. Am I? It seems like the main issue here is that your ex-girlfriend was the roadblock to your ex-wife visiting the kids, and now that she's out of the picture, you still haven't informed your ex-wife about the change. This is particularly concerning because your kids want to see their mom more, and it feels like she has the right to know. Your ex-wife's visitation was already limited due to your ex-girlfriend's discomfort, which seems unfair. So yeah, you were the jerk here, OP, for not making it easier for your ex-wife to spend time with her children. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.